This entire situation involving DogPack404 and MrBeast has been on my radar for a while, and after initially canceling my first attempts at covering this, I came back after gathering my information better and found myself in one of the weirdest and deepest rabbit holes I've come across in a good while. Let's just say that both DogPack404 and MrBeast have a lot of explaining to do here, and trust me, you'll soon see why I say that. Remember to like the video and subscribe for more content. Now let's not waste any time and get right into this story because there is a lot going on here. On July 24th, 2024, DogPack404 aka Dawson French would upload his video, "I worked for MrBeast, he's a fraud," after teasing it on Twitter. An hour-long dive into his time working at the company and exposing them for their shady and illegal business practices. Now, I initially gave the video a watch and thought it was decently well put together, such as this one part where he shows how someone was signing MrBeast's signature during a t-shirt selling stream despite the shirts being sold as if they were signed by the man himself.
So here's a clip of Tyler using MrBeast's signature. So Tyler signs MB, which is MrBeast's signature. Then he covers it, signs his own initials, TC, smirks, looks around, and then quickly slides the shirt away. Could you make it any more obvious?
I don't care if this is technically illegal or not, it was shady and I don't like that kind of shadiness at all. At the very least, they could have been using a stamp that was signed by MrBeast, but no, it was a whole other person who was signing his name secretly as it seems, and clearly this was something that has been going on as Dawson would find his version of the MrBeast signature on multiple different t-shirts out there. There was even another part showing how this guy named Mac, who just so happened to win a contest, was likely an industry plant as he had worked at another big YouTuber in the past like Eric, including this specific clip where he leads the audience on by showing how he lives in a mansion, then plays a clip of him pretending to care that he won the prize money despite being rich already.
His 6,000 square foot $1 million mansion comes with a movie theater and 7 bathrooms.
What are you gonna spend the $800,000 on?
I mean, my life's changed now.
Yeah, I'm sure that $800,000 is really gonna change your life.
Now, after seeing how Mac was rich already and basically was getting free publicity and pretending to care about getting more money winning a challenge, I actually started talking about it with my friends and such, and I even supported Dawson publicly at one point in time, but I apologize for that mistake, and you'll soon see why. After realizing I was tricked, which again I'll get into later, I started work on my own video about this DogPack404 MrBeast stuff, and so I decided to look into the Mac clip some more, and what I found shocked me.
What are you gonna spend the $800,000 on?
I mean, my life's changed now.
Yeah, I'm sure that $800,000 is really gonna change your life.
Max is a nice car.
What are you gonna spend the $800,000 on?
I've got 3 friends of mine, childhood friends of mine. They don't have a lot of money. I'm gonna make sure they don't have to worry about money anymore. I mean, my life's changed now.
Congrats, man. You deserve it.
Forever, bro.
You deserve it.
Dude, thank you.
That's right, in Dawson's video, he deceptively edits it to make it seem as if Mac is playing things off a script to seem humble despite being rich. Yet in the actual upload, Mac is clearly happy because he can use the money to help his friends out, which changes the entire context of the situation, and clearly, Dawson cut this out to make it look worse. Now, I would end up digging through the entire video, but another YouTuber beat me to the punch and made a video going over it himself, so I recommend checking out YouTuber Soggy Cereal's video going over the stuff when he covers this video in specific, because there are parts of it that I do not like whatsoever, but I'll get into that way later on down the line. Perhaps one day I'll go over everything I found myself, but for now I'm going to go into a couple of things that really show you just how deceptive Dawson is in his upload.
Shredder is CGI.
No, it's not. The shredder is real and you can see it for yourself in the video Lamborghini versus World's Largest Shredder when you skip to the end. Is it enhanced with CG to make it look bigger and better? Yes, but if you seriously have an issue with that and aren't just pedantically looking for some reason to hate on MrBeast, I think you should go after all the Hollywood studios that do this kind of stuff as well. In fact, I think you should care about the more important stuff going on in general, like when Dawson shows more evidence of them clearly trying to push Mac and his brand further in a video World's Most Dangerous Trap.
Secret employee at MrBeast. They had him dive through this fake door twice.
Dawson is right here. You can tell it's CGI as when you see Mac dive under the door, you can see that just as he gets past, his legs are clearly up in the air when going frame by frame. Yet in the scene they show in the video, Mac clearly pushes through the door frame sliding on his side before he slows down and only then do his legs go into the air due to his momentum. This laser jumping sequence is very clearly CGI, and while I don't think the sets themselves are fake, this outcome very likely was, and again, given Mac as someone who's been around the YouTube block, I'm certain this is part of upping his branding just like the other challenge he won that we went over. As we've seen though, Dawson is also extremely pedantic too, like showing how the bus wheels are CGI in this clip. Yeah, of course they are, it's pretty easy to tell, but this doesn't mean anything because it's basic CG work to make it look cooler.
This pit is fake, this guy is fake.
The same goes for this, it doesn't matter because the train jumps into the pit anyway, the CGI just makes the set look more complete.
This pit is fake.
He lies here again, and the reason I know this is because right on screen you can see the CGI version of the train heading into the pit, and next on screen is the real shot that they CG'd over where you can clearly see that the pits are looking different. Hell, you can even see where they added a tree on the right of the pit when comparing the real and fake shots side by side. And the same can be said with a wooden barricade added in the CGI version as well, as you can see right on screen on the train track. This is basic post-production going on here. Every Hollywood movie does this. So for Dawson to be pedantic and lie again just muddies the waters because it's important stuff that matters here the most, not any of this. Dawson would say that contestant number 58 from the video, ages 1 through 100 decide who wins $250,000, had post-production in place and that the storyline between him and contestant 42 was faked.
In this video, this wink was added in post. In fact, 58 was actually on the far opposite side of the room from 42 and he just didn't hear him. This whole revenge storyline was added in post.
It turns out he lied again, as contestant 58 would come out publicly on TikTok on August 28, 2024 to set the record straight for everyone wondering what was going on.
I did wink. I winked a few times, as a matter of fact. The other thing that's been said is I didn't hear 42 say he was stepping out of his cube. Yes, I heard 42 say he was stepping out of his cube. 42 and I actually discussed that after we left the set. I know of nothing in that video that was staged whatsoever. It was 100% legit, and I don't know why these rumors are going over the internet that these things didn't happen. That I was, what'd they say, post-edited after the video was shot. That's not true. I winked. Everything that I did in that video, and nothing was edited after the fact.
Now, Dawson would talk about timers being edited in post in order to portray a certain narrative compared to how the video narrative is going, and he shows an example of that with the livestream clip of Kai Cenat reacting when you can see the timer in the background, going on to compare to the current version where the scene is now clearly zoomed in to make sure people can't see the timer in the background now. I checked the video myself to see what the context was, and basically the premise of the challenge was whoever walked out of the room within a 10-minute timer as the only person to do so would get eliminated but win $250,000, but they had to be completely silent, waiting it out and not say a single word or peep or anything, but if one more person left their room they would get eliminated and all would win nothing. Contestant 42 will walk out announcing loud to the room of people that he was doing it, with the video saying he did it at the 1 minute 13 second mark on the timer in the corner. At the 18 minute 58 second mark of the entire video, you can see that the timer behind him says 50 seconds and the timer in the corner says it as well. In the new version where they zoomed in the camera at 19 minutes 9 seconds, you can see that the timer on screen says 38 seconds remaining in the top right and the timer behind him now hiding above the frame. However, in the old version before they zoomed in on the screen, at that same mark in the Kai Cenat reaction, you can see that it says 4 minutes on the timer instead of 38 seconds like it says in the corner, meaning one of two things went down here. The first being the timer glitched out for some reason, or the second being that contestant 42 was standing outside his door for a lot longer than 1 minute and 13 seconds like the video is edited to show. Now obviously it's clear that the video editors decided to use a clip of him standing around at the 4 minute mark because they liked it or they needed filler or something. Is it deceptively edited? Yes, because he clearly was outside his room for a lot longer than 1 minute 13 seconds and the video says. In fact, it seems that 42 was standing outside around the 8 minute 50 second mark, as if you go frame by frame you can clearly see into a nearby room's timer, meaning he was actually standing outside for around 9 minutes instead of 1 minute 13 seconds like the video's edited to show. At the very last second, 58 would step outside his room and they would both lose, with 42 giving some pissed off comments towards his way.
I made my voice very loud and clear and you knew what was going to happen, so you basically said, money, I don't like you.
One could say this makes 58 look stupid for stepping out like this. However, as you heard earlier in his TikTok video, he said he planned on stepping out himself despite hearing 42 announce to everyone he was stepping out at what we now know was around the very beginning the challenge started, which means that 58 indeed planned to screw him over from the very beginning.
Yes, I heard 42 say he was stepping out of his cube.
As for why? Well, earlier in the video, 42 became team captain for his row, a row that just so happened to have 58 in it, and at one point there was a challenge where he was using his influence on contestant 43 next to him and was using her power to eliminate people from the game as the challenge going on let her do so, in which he told her to eliminate an 11-year-old because, and I quote,
Now's not the time to develop a heart, okay?
It was very clear now that 58 did not like 42 after what happened, and so he didn't want him to win any money at all and left his room out of spite. Meaning that even if the video was deceptively edited to make it seem as 42 was standing outside for only a minute, 58 still had his game plan in motion the moment he announced he was leaving his room back during the very first minute and didn't try to gamble himself. Now the question here is, while it's technically deceptive, does it really matter given the outcome ended up with both of them losing? Well, in my opinion, it doesn't matter in this case because it didn't affect the outcome of the event. Because we know that 58 planned to step out no matter what after hearing 42 announce it, it means that even if 42 said this with 10 seconds left on the clock and therefore 58 clearly heard it and had no time to second guess himself, his mind was made up from the beginning. However, if it ended up being a situation where 58 didn't plan on stepping out to screw him over and only did so because after 9 minutes of silence he assumed 42 didn't go through with his plan, only then would it matter. Because in that case the video would have been edited to make 58 look stupid to the viewers instead of a man with a plan. However, Dawson is still wrong in his assessment as he just lies about 58 not winking when he clearly did and said the story between him and 42 was set up. As when actually looking into it, I was able to find evidence of the MrBeast editing team being a bit shady with how they edit their videos. However, I think where this does matter is in the video 7 Days Stranded at Sea, in which Dawson is right that at one point the team was not on the raft despite saying they were.
During this time lapse on the 4th day of 7 Days Stranded at Sea, you can clearly see there's no one in the shelter. These are their empty beds. But after a hard cut, magically 5 people are awake, and 2 of the boys have bright yellow raincoats that they didn't have when it rained on day 2.
And after standing the whole night completely soaked,
You didn't spend the night soaked.
And I paused it right here because as we see, he's right so far. However, he would then add a second allegation into the mix that tears everything apart.
Jimmy, you slept on the production yacht.
Now he says they were chilling on a yacht, and everybody knows that the word yacht assumes luxury. Except this isn't the case, as in Soggy Cereal's video after MrBeast employee Dustin Harris contacted him, he would send a video showing that due to thunderstorms the safety team decided to put them on a barge for an hour to let it pass as it was way too dangerous for them to stay on the raft.
And here is video proof from the rusty barge. Wow, what a luxurious yacht!
So Dawson was right at first, but then he speculated without any proof that they were just being lazy and was proven wrong, in turn showing how disingenuous of a person he is to his viewers yet again. However, I did say earlier that this mattered in the context of deceptive editing, because in this case the MrBeast editing team told a clearly false story in how the raft video was filmed in order to fit their narrative they planned way back in the production room. It was deceptive and misleading without a doubt, and I don't like that they told an untruthful story that changes the entire outcome of a challenge like this. A good example of a production and editing crew that did this properly when things weren't going right was on the TV show Survivor, as during season 42 episode 3 Going for the Gusto aired back in March 2022, there was part of a challenge where the contestants had to get a ladder and use it to get sandbags from under the water to proceed further. However, the extremely rough waves of the ocean was starting to affect them beyond just making it challenging, but instead became a very serious safety concern, so for the first time in the show's history they would skip that portion of the challenge and move things on to the next part and continue on. And that's not to say they're being weak about it. The show's had challenges that have lasted multiple hours, including one that went on for just under 12 total hours with nothing going bad enough for the producers to step in and put a stop to it because it wasn't dangerous to the contestants' well-being. As you can see, the production staff for the first time in the show's 20+ year history stepped in after seeing how dangerous things are getting to put a stop to things. Now they did continue the rest of the challenge like normal back on the beach, but the point here is that despite their own shortcomings out of their control with the ocean getting rougher just like how the storm was out of the MrBeast crew's control, the Survivor editing team still aired them changing up the challenge as part of the show itself while still protecting their contestants' lives. The MrBeast editing team didn't. They deceptively edited the video to never let anyone know that they went onto a barge and went on to pretend it never happened. I think this is wrong because it shows that they are willing to twist things around to fit what narratives they want the viewers to believe. And if a TV show isn't willing to stoop down to that level to keep their 20+ year streak alive, I think that says something about the way they go about making their videos, as who knows what other videos they've done the same exact stuff with. Dawson would get into the video, in 10 minutes this room will explode, and say that the timer on top is added in post.
And the timer is clearly added in post.
It turns out he was lying to people again as Soggy Cereal would talk to him about it on Discord, in which Dawson would post a picture saying that he took it and you can clearly see the timer on top there. Even if he lied to Soggy Cereal about taking a picture, it still means someone else on set took the picture of a real timer and it wasn't added in post, so it makes no difference no matter how you put it. Now there's some more stuff, but again I wanted to focus on a select few as the most important claims to me are by far the illegal lottery claims, and let's just say those are a lot more interesting than meets the eye. To make it as quick and to the point as I can, a lottery is considered illegal when it meets 3 criteria at the same time: prize, chance, and consideration. Prize and chance is very easy to put together. The prize can be a MrBeast t-shirt signed by the crew, and the chance is, well, the chance to win the signed MrBeast t-shirt by purchasing merch. I want to point that part out specifically. Entering the contest will only be possible if the person bought merch in this case. Consideration is a bit more tricky, but basically in this case with this example, it's doing something you're not legally required to do, or in easier terms, entering the contest isn't legally required, therefore entering the contest by buying the plain t-shirt for a chance to win a signed one is consideration. Since this example fits all 3 of the prize, chance, and consideration criteria, it would be considered an illegal lottery. However, the way a lot of sweepstakes and lotteries are able to make their competitions legal is by taking out consideration, usually, and I quote, A common alternative method of entry is permitting entrants to mail the sweepstakes sponsor a 3x5-inch note card with entrants' personal information, which courts have previously held is not consideration. Guess what the MrBeast brand has done before when running a lottery? That's right, they've done the 3x5 note card thing with the entrant's personal information, showing that they have taken away consideration and therefore the lottery in question attached to this is legal. I find it strange that in Dawson's video at one point he actually acknowledges that they've done this before when running a Feastables thing, yet frames it as if they're being shady when if anything they're doing what they can to not break the law.
Necessary is either on the Feastables Twitter account because it's a rule of the platform, and even still they try to push it. No perched neck, or hidden deep in the Feastables website under a FAQ. And to enter for free, you have to mail in separate 3-inch by 5-inch hand-addressed written index cards, up to 10 a day. Do you think kids are gonna do that shit or just beg their parents when they're at Walmart for the YouTuber diabetes lottery ticket? How is this legal?
Now obviously Dawson implies that the MrBeast brand is only doing this because they're trying to get kids to buy their product, in this case the Feastables chocolate. But again, this is quite literally them doing something in order to not break the law and get in legal trouble. On top of that, this ain't any different from those Taco Bell or McDonald's sweepstakes where they say to buy food for a chance to win an Xbox or whatever, even though you don't actually need to purchase anything. So if he wants to go at MrBeast and his brand for doing this, he has a lot of fast food franchises that he should hold to the same standard as well. To add more to that, Dawson has been the one talking about how illegal lotteries work and only brings this up as a way to attack the brand rather than explain this is a way they are legally able to run their lotteries. Is it bare minimum? Hell yeah it is, but it still ain't illegal. And that's something I personally find shady, as this information very clearly makes the company look better, yet it's framed by Dawson to make them look worse. Also, some of y'all might be thinking, well, if people buy merch to enter a contest for a chance to win a signed t-shirt as an illegal lottery, what about buying a scratch-off ticket for a chance to win money? Shouldn't that be illegal also? Well, my friends, that's where things get interesting here, as the lottery is legal so long as it's state-run and therefore approved by them, given you can play it in your state. Pretty simple to understand, but yeah, I figured to point it out in case people get confused. Since we're on the topic, raffles are an example of something that are technically illegal, as the purchase of a ticket is needed in order for a chance to win a prize. However, according to this article on liveabout.com dated July 21st, 2022, quote, many jurisdictions make exceptions for fundraising raffles. Those exceptions apply to certain types of organizations like schools and churches, for raffle prizes whose value is under a certain amount, and other reasons. Basically, if a raffle's for a fundraiser, it's not illegal unless said otherwise, but if it's for personal gain, be it yourself or your company, it's technically illegal. There's a reason that when you think about it, not a lot of times do you see a raffle outside a school or business setting where the money is being raised for a charity to put back in the community, like to fix a building, for example. Also, we've been going over lotteries and raffles, so let me go over sweepstakes real quick. A sweepstakes is free to enter, and given that consideration is taken off to count when something is free to enter, that means they're legal. Figured it'd be best to cover the trifecta going on here before moving on, so yeah, there you have it. When getting into it, Dawson shows in his video that one of the 3 total lotteries that the MrBeast crew ran has in the description saying people can enter their multiple lotteries that they stream without purchasing anything, meaning that the examples he shows after most likely don't mean anything as they're already legally covered.
MrBeast signed shirts again, but this time it was a 24-hour live stream with way more illegal lotteries. And by the way, the rest of these streams were taken down shortly after upload, so all I have is some old clips and Reddit threads talking about them. Now this stream did say, we are doing a ton of giveaways, no purchase necessary in the description. But to be eligible to win most prizes, you had to make a purchase.
Would you guys prefer, that we throw money in random orders or that we throw items in random orders?
Yeah.
Somebody screamed in chat, I want to switch.
Hey.
Buy a shirt.
In 30 minutes, we are giving away my car to someone that buys merch.
Which each giveaway is its own independent event. You can't give one prize to someone who buys something and a different prize to someone in chat. The prize where you have to buy something is still an illegal lottery.
I said most likely because that last clip with MrBeast is definitely interesting, but given the only way for me to investigate this means I have to somehow get into the MrBeast company's servers and merch website statistics to actually figure out if they ran this or if it was a joke of some sort, that's technically all up in the air here, legally speaking. On top of that, it's not my job to look into whether each of these are illegal or not. That's the accuser Dawson's job. And after looking into what is only available to me publicly, the answer is still up in the air rather than fully illegal despite how he frames it in his video. Again, there's a chance that some of the lotteries they ran in the video could be illegal after what I've seen, but the evidence that Dawson shows does not immediately make it a for sure answer, but rather just adds more suspicion at most. Now the second lottery that was run titled Buy This T-shirt to be in a video is more interesting. as Dawson would make a disclaimer in his video upload saying that on the website it said no purchase was necessary but not in the video itself. However, when checking out the description on the Wayback Machine, it says on 2 occasions when the description was updated that no purchase was necessary to enter the contest either, meaning that since it already said on the website no purchase was necessary, the MrBeast crew were legally covered. Dawson never mentioned this lottery had in the description saying it was covered and instead said it only said on the website, and I found that weird given he said for the other lottery that they had it in the description, showing that either he did bad research on this specific lottery or he was being deceptive again by not mentioning something that can take apart his entire argument. Given we've seen Dawson being deceptive over and over again when covering his stuff, I personally think he was being deceptive again with this part, but that's purely speculation on my end as it's always possible he just did bad research, so take what I said with a grain of salt. Now lottery 3 out of 3 titled If You Buy This Shirt I'll Sign It was the big hitter of the bunch, as even I couldn't find nothing on it when I first looked into it. However, Soggy Cereal would, and he would find out that this lottery was illegal as nowhere in the description are people informed that no purchase is necessary, meaning that 1 out of the 3 lotteries is without a doubt illegal and MrBeast and his company were breaking the law as far as it looks.
On my flight back, I finally found some proof that the first illegal lottery was in fact illegal. There was no purchase necessary in the description, no mention of it at all. Yeah, it was illegal.
I ain't gonna be like, oh well, it was a mistake, blah blah blah. No, MrBeast isn't your down the street neighbor who accidentally ran an illegal lottery or raffle or sweepstakes or whatever at the local county fair. MrBeast and his brand are a worldwide known thing, and a mistake like this that involves them breaking the law shouldn't be downplayed nor should it be overblown. I don't know what they're gonna do now that this news is out thanks to Soggy Cereal, but that's the truth going on here. Now, as we've seen, of the 3 illegal lotteries that Dawson talks about, 1 is very likely illegal, another might be illegal but it's up in the air, and the 3rd isn't illegal at all. This isn't like the other stuff where Dawson is pedantic about the CGI or exposes how they're pushing Mac and his brand by promoting him in videos. This is stuff that can put a company and brand into serious legal trouble, and the fact that 2 out of the 3 illegal lotteries aren't 100% certain after looking into it ourselves opens up Dawson to getting sued, as this video where he claims this to be true has been seen by 15 million people and has seriously damaged MrBeast and his brand. Now some of y'all might be thinking right now that Dawson is just doing this for the good of humanity and is playing vigilante because he hates how this big company he worked for is doing shady stuff. But trust me, we'll come back to this further down the line, just put a pin in it for now. Dawson spends a portion of the video going on about how MrBeast promotes his chocolate brand Feastables and that it's unhealthy and bad because children are his main audience. I'm not gonna get into this because I don't care that MrBeast sells chocolate, I really don't. But there's one part where Dawson alleges that MrBeast chocolate isn't technically healthier than Hershey's despite what MrBeast constantly says in his videos and advertisements. Well, in the example he shows on screen, you can see that he compares a 43-gram serving size Hershey bar to a 60-gram serving size Feastables bar. Now obviously these are different weights and therefore the numbers are a bit off, but as you know already, Dawson has been shady with the way his videos have been produced so far. So I looked into it myself, and it comes as no one's surprise that when you bring down the 60-gram Feastables bar to 45 grams, just a tad higher than the Hershey's one, it turns out that it's technically a little bit healthier as it comes out to 22.5 grams of sugar compared to Hershey's having 25 grams of sugar and 23 grams per serving size. That means Hershey's is literally more unhealthy as there's technically more sugar in their 43-gram serving size compared to the hypothetical 45-gram Feastables bar. Again, people saw this and assumed he was telling the truth here, but of course he wasn't. There's this one part in the video where Dawson plays people's reactions to seeing the phrase, "world's best chocolate" on the Feastables bar to make the company look bad, and knowing that he's a US citizen, I know he's being disingenuous and is reaching here, and it frankly annoys me. Now for those that live outside the USA, this kind of advertising is perfectly legal and is referred to as puffery, which is basically exaggerating something as much as they legally can. That's why there are hundreds of pizza shops that say, #1 pizza in New York, or world's best coffee, or something similar in the US. It's because it's legal to promote and sell a product in that fashion here. In fact, there's this one time I was on vacation in Ålesund, Norway and ran into a fish and chip shop and found it absolutely hilarious that on the side it said, "probably the best in the world," that I just had to take a picture of it. Now I didn't need to look up Norwegian law to figure out that it's probably illegal to do this world's best kind of puffery language in that country, which helps me understand that a lot of people outside the US, even if they're familiar with the phrase, might not know that it's actually perfectly fine to use here. Dawson knows this because he's clearly born and lives in the United States, and so for him to throw this in the mix is clearly just looking for any clips he can find to somehow paint the company in a bad light despite knowing this is legal in the country and the chocolate is made in. As far as selling it in other countries, I would assume those that have laws against this world's best kind of puffery language either refuse to stock the candy or have Feastables produce a wrapper that takes it off the chocolate bar, but I don't really care because the point here is that it's still legal in the US to sell it this way, and Dawson knows this and still try to use it to make him look bad. Also, for some of the foreign people who are reacting to it in the clips, they very likely didn't buy the chocolate, It was probably sent to them by MrBeast HQ because, duh, free publicity. If you're someone in the United States who unironically thinks that the Feastables brand putting the phrase, world's best chocolate is some sort of massive sin, I think you're just being bad-faced trying to look for anything you can to make them look bad, because I have never seen this outrage in my life for the countless other pizza shops and products that do the same exact stuff as the chocolate here. Maybe you are one of those people that makes a bunch of ruckus about it online. You could be. But the point here is that it's not a big deal and that Dawson is disingenuously framing it. I didn't even notice this at first. Dawson unironically implies world's best advertising is false advertising by placing a screenshot of the phrase in the corner when it's being talked about. Yeah, okay, I'm fairly confident he's just lying to people again, as I highly doubt at this point he doesn't know what puffery is in advertising. The structure of this section is just way too slimy to me. Now there is some stuff that Dawson talks about involving MrBeast which is for sure interesting, but I'm saving that for the end of the video when I get into my MrBeast section for brevity's sake. The point is, Dawson is shown to be a disingenuous person and has even outright lied to people about stuff, and after seeing all this for myself, it got me interested and had me asking, who exactly is DogPack404? Alongside making the video, Dawson would head to the r/YouTube drama subreddit for a quick AMA now that his name was on the map. In that AMA, he would admit that he was the user MrBeast Creative, as you can see right there on screen. And later on during it would admit that his other account is that 5head guy. That account is interesting because back on March 11th, 2023, he would create it, meaning this is a brand new thing going on, and just a few weeks later he would start to get active on the XQC subreddit showing off some merch ideas he was working on. And later on in the same thread to post a cheaply made meme sort of resume basically trying to beg his way to a job at XQC himself, even referring to XQC directly, quote, "Just tell me what you want, I can send you designs to review with chat." Dawson would send some more merch designs in April, but in June later that year would get frustrated with mods deleting his post calling out XQC and the designer he hired for using AI in his merch designs. He would then accuse the designer of ripping off the Heron Preston designer brand, and in the entire post would go on a short rant about how the mods deleted his last post and that XQC is in denial. I assume that AI are ripping off stuff in this context. Now all he wants to do is get the news out there for others to see. For further context, here are more posts of him talking about how his stuff about the AI art merch keeps getting deleted off the XQC subreddit, showing that he was adamant about being heard by the people that same June. In August that year, he would actually head to the H3H3 Productions subreddit, a place known for some drama going about, in order to try to get this story further out there after the XQC subreddit wrote him off. But that didn't seem to go anywhere, as very few people outside the XQC fanbase probably have any idea this was a thing that ever happened to begin with. By May 2023, however, Dawson was already starting to talk and comment around the MrBeast subreddit during his time hanging around the XQC crowd. And also by August that year has seemed to have moved on from the XQC subreddit into the MrBeast one, as he was starting to get semi-active in it that fall, breaking down what he liked about the Squid Game video for example. He was also critical of some videos as well, such as how the not eating for 30 days video is actually 14 days and how he believes it's inauthentic and wishes they could stop clickbaiting stuff. Now where things get interesting is that on December 28th, 2023, Dawson would say he worked with a very unplanned YouTuber before, but that's the only detail he ever gives out about his past. During a discussion about another video, he would mention the Train vs. Pit and Lamborghini vs. Shredder videos in the same vein, something I found interesting as those are two integral videos in his disingenuous attempt to paint the company in a bad light. It might not mean anything honestly, but I still found it interesting enough so I figured to point it out for y'all to see. On February 7th, 2024, Dawson would show his discontent with how the MrBeast brand runs their lotteries, quote, "Lottery would be illegal, but this is essentially what all his sweepstakes are." So, we can clearly see that Dawson thinks the MrBeast company runs illegal lotteries well before he made his YouTube video talking about him in July 5 months later. On February 10th, 2024, he would comment on a Feastables post talking about how he commends MrBeast for trying to get people to eat healthy, but that chocolate wasn't a product to try this with, showing that he thinks MrBeast making and selling chocolate as a healthy alternative is wrong. So, we see Dawson thinks they run illegal lotteries and that selling chocolate under the guise of it being healthy to children is something he doesn't like. So that begs a question. How come on February 11th, 2024, after he said all this, did he make his own fan design of the Feastables chocolate bar wrapper despite disliking the Feastables company and their practices? And why on February 12th, 2024 did he start a series of posts pitching video ideas for the main MrBeast brand, again, despite disliking them and their practices? Now Dawson will go on to make a total of 10 posts of a variety of video ideas that each gained attention on the site, but for brevity's sake I'll only be talking about the ones I found the most interesting. Day 4 had a little rant at the very end where Dawson goes on to talk about how he wants to continue making pitches, quote, until they reach the point where they are far better than the internal pitches at MrBeast, meaning that he views himself as smarter than those working at the company right now and that he wants to shape the company the way he wants them to look like. It falls right in line with how his name on Reddit is that 5head guy, as 5head is internet slang for someone who describes another as very intelligent, though it's often used in a sarcastic context to mock a person thinking they're smart rather than complimenting them. It's easy to see that Dawson is being cheeky about it, naming himself this way in order to play in on the joke of being super smart, but not really. Yet here he does let the mask slip and show that he does view himself as smarter than the MrBeast employees at the job right now. Day 8 was a little interesting as he still buys Feastables despite saying he doesn't like what they're doing with the product, also saying similar stuff we saw before, so I'm not going to get into it. Day 10 is the most interesting, however, as Dawson would make a 15-minute video basically begging his way into a job with the company by showing how he understands the nitty-gritty and gaining people's attention and how to subconsciously keep them watching. It's not the biggest piece of information, nor is there anything super damning against him, but there were some interesting parts, like where he mentions how he likes to focus on the human aspect of content creation to basically not create brain rot or to use children, something that he went after the brand for in his expose video.
There's also a third thing I consider, which is how beneficial a component is for humanity. If you only focus on optimizing for viewer satisfaction, you end up making digital opium, essentially. I think this is incredibly important. Logically, humans are the most important species for the continuation of life on Earth, which is all life as we know it. The primary mechanism for human learning and development outside of the womb is play. During play is when humans naturally download the most information into their brain. And play has remained largely the same for the past 50 million years, essentially outdoor social mental and physical experimentation of the self and other foreign bodies. So only in the past decade has the most important mechanism for the development of the most important species changed drastically from unstructured outdoor play to indoor screenplay. So I really can't stress enough how important I think it is to make sure that beneficial content goes viral.
He even starts to talk about the train versus pit video and how to use CGI. And what's interesting is that recently he used it against a company in his expose video, but in his job pitch he's using it as something that can be improved in the long term, showing that even though he disagrees with it, he was using it in a constructive manner rather than a destructive one as seen in the expose video.
So for the purpose of optimization, you need control and predictability, but it's not easy to transition from authentic, unscripted content to a fully controllable system. I think this transition problem was apparent with Train versus Pit. Now I get it, you're Jimmy. You walk into the editing room, see this, and think, dang, we should have had train tracks going down the pit. You try to add them in post, but as a viewer, you notice the train tracks look a little off, and you start getting skeptical. Next you notice the spinning bus wheels look fake, the pit looks fake, is that guy fake? It just makes everything feel fake when the whole point of the video is that you're doing real experiments. So there was some public backlash against the CGI.
Guys, what is going on?
Okay, so that's all the criticism, and I could be completely wrong, but the point is, in my opinion, I don't think MrBeast especially should ever lie or deceive the audience intentionally. Any slip-ups could be used against Jimmy at any time, permanently staining his reputation and hurting future endeavors.
The rest wouldn't be of much interest, but these would actually work as Dawson will end up posting an update showing that he was in talks with the MrBeast company for a potential job offer on February 22nd, and well, we all know how that went. That train versus pit example is still so interesting to me, as the change from general criticism to improve upon to using it as a weapon against a company is odd, as it clearly hints that something happened and now use this to weaponize against him instead of his initial thing, which was to improve him. Something clearly went down here, but we'll get into that later. Now Dawson said publicly that he started working with them a bit in February and March, eventually getting a 90-day contract starting on April 1st and ending in June. So in reading this, it reads as if his contract expired by the time July rolled about, as he was with the company for the past couple months. He would even mention how he was supposed to get compensated for driving to them instead of taking their flight they offered, but I don't want to get into the nitty-gritty of that right now. Just know this is something else that gave him a sour view on the company. Remember the intro to his video how Dawson's pupils were very clearly dilated and he was on some sort of substance? Well, he would confirm on Reddit that he was on 3.5 grams of mushrooms and a little bit of weed when he recorded that. It turns out Dawson is a DMT user, as back in December 2023 he would talk about an experience he had one night that was super impactful on him and such in the r/stories subreddit. He even interacted one time with the DMT subreddit itself at an unspecified date, showing off some drug paraphernalia that I can't show on screen due to YouTube's rules asking the users if they think he could salvage it or not. More and more people found out about his drug usage, and Dawson would eventually respond to it on August 1st, just a week into his video being around, saying that he tried to microdose mushrooms for a week 3 months ago but stopped because the taste made him sick. Now I don't know the science behind mushroom, weed, or DMT usage, but it does add a soft twist to the story that Dawson might be someone who just can't think straight due to his said past usage. It's something that's worth bringing up because at the end of the day, we still don't really know why he went after MrBeast and his brand after leaving the company. He said in his videos for the illegal lotteries and chocolate and such, but as we just went over, we now know this isn't the case because none of that bothered him enough to deter from trying to get a job with them in the first place. I also want to make it crystal clear here that even though we've seen that Dawson has used some strong drugs before, given it's not a big amount, I don't think it's enough to label him as some sort of crazy person. I know some of y'all might get the idea after what I said, but again, I'm making it clear that I don't personally believe it's enough to warrant that kind of reaction from what I've seen. I just think it's important information to show y'all, and so there you have it. Still, none of this is making any sense here. Either way, the story at the time was the public was rallying on his side after his video came out, and so he would get started on his sequel in order to keep the momentum moving forward. On August 7th, 2024, Dawson dropped a sequel, I Work for MrBeast, He's a Sociopath, with the majority of its runtime being an interview with former MrBeast employee Jake Weddle. They will get into how he was in the trial run for their series of surviving in solitary confinement, but that his went bad and that the episode was never produced because of it. While a lot of the initial stuff Jake talks about having issues with isn't really that big of a deal in my opinion, the thing that tipped it over for me was when he would go on and say how they made him run a marathon on a treadmill without shoes on non-stop for hours upon hours until his feet got blisters on him.
He goes, you're gonna run a marathon. You're gonna do the 22.6K, whatever it is. And you're gonna do it on that treadmill over there. Get the boost and I want the cash, and so I start running at 12. I was able to take some breaks, and I asked him, how long do I have? He goes, until I get back. And I'm running until 3 a.m. I got off the treadmill. Oh, the blisters I had on my feet were like, you wouldn't believe, just all over, just these big red. I couldn't walk. My muscles were like just the lactic acid. I got off the treadmill, and then the people that came in to like ice my feet, make sure I was good. Then that's when I was like, I'm done. I'm done. I'm out.
You woke up that day and they said you were going to run a marathon, and you didn't have shoes, number one, and B, you don't run marathons.
Okay, we got it. All right, okay.
This is wrong no matter what, as nobody stepped in to stop the challenge despite knowing he was doing this and was clearly being negatively affected by it beyond just being a hard challenge, as this was hazardous on a major level to his body. Now, I've seen some people mention how Jake could have quit at any time, and while that's true, when there's a lot of money on the line, people will push themselves to extreme lengths to get to that goal, and it's up to the production staff to step in and put a stop to things. I bring up that Survivor example again. The Survivor producers knew when to step in and break a 20+ year streak in order to keep their contestants safe, but the MrBeast producers didn't and instead let Jake Weddle get seriously injured in the process. I don't know if the blame here is on MrBeast himself or the company, but either way, Jake was still done wrong without a doubt involving a treadmill situation. Where things get crazy is that Jake would go on and reveal that MrBeast hired a child sex offender who was on the registry to work at the company despite making content for children. He goes by the nickname Delaware, and according to Jake, it's because he was banned from the state of Delaware after what he did.
It's like, why do you call him Delaware? I didn't know. Apparently they called him Delaware because he's not allowed to go back to Delaware. That's his nickname? Colloquially? Like, yeah, it's Delaware. Don't ask him why, The fuck?
Now, Jake was actually told wrong information, as the real reason they call him Delaware is because it was his name on his shirt when he worked at Best Buy, where MrBeast would buy a lot of his camera equipment back then when he was still getting things rolling. His first appearance would even be in the video, I Gave $20,000 to Random Homeless People, uploaded on February 16, 2018, and in it you can clearly see the name Delaware on his shirt, showing that this was a very well-known nickname he went by. Now, where things get interesting is that Dustin Harris would tell Soggy Cereal that Delaware, better known as Charles Robert Jefferson, was just a random Best Buy employee that they found and didn't do a proper background check on. Not doing a proper check is likely to be the case, as not only did Delaware work at Best Buy, so is Chris Tyson, as on November 30th, 2015, they would reveal that they were working at Best Buy in the home theater section of the store, meaning that's how the Delaware connection first started. Now, I've seen this screenshot of Delaware making a comment back on January 5th, 2010 about his friend Chris coming to help install Windows 7 on his computer, as some people say this was Chris Tyson. I highly doubt this to be the case, as Chris Tyson was 13 years old when he posted this and Delaware was 22, and it is extremely unlikely they knew each other before Chris got their job at Best Buy. As far as Delaware being someone they randomly found, that part is likely not true, as it's much more likely Chris and Delaware were at least acquaintances given how they brought him onto the MrBeast team in the early days when it was mostly just friends. But I'm not going to bash Dustin for this because it's such an inane detail and he was probably just told by someone on the crew this is how it went down. Where things get a bit more interesting is that Delaware would appear in 2 more videos on the channel. The first being in the video, Destroyed Friend's House and Bought Him a New One, uploaded on November 28, 2018, where he is seen for a small moment talking to MrBeast. The second and last time he would be seen would be in the video, I Spent 24 Hours Straight in an Insane Asylum, uploaded on February 10th, 2019. What's noticeable is that Delaware is now wearing a mask and given the nickname Zorro, meaning that between filming the video where they destroyed his house to filming the Insane Asylum challenge, they found he was a child offender on the registry, otherwise why only now to try hide his face? Remember, MrBeast is all about making every last second count towards the YouTube algorithm, and someone showing their face is extremely important in keeping people invested. There's a reason why many content creators who show their face end up doing far better than those anonymous people like me. People are subconsciously more likely to like the person or people if they see a face and therefore more inclined to subscribe. That's just how human nature goes in this case. While I can't 100% prove they found out before they fired him, I personally believe they kept him around a little bit longer, hence why he was seen in the video wearing a mask, as it's all just a little bit too fishy to me. Now, Delaware was let go shortly after this video came out, but what I can't figure out is if it was MrBeast realizing how messed up it was to have him working on his channel, or if it was because just a month before the video came out, he would end up signing with Night Media in January 2019, and that has something to do with it. In my opinion, seeing that Delaware wore a mask and went by a different name when recording the video shows that people such as MrBeast were now aware he was on the registry, and instead of getting rid of him right on the spot, they kept him around for a little bit longer, again, hence why he appears in the video with the mask on. As far as why he was hired to be their manager, this is all strictly hearsay, so take it with a gigantic grain of salt, but apparently during the filming of the video winning a game of Fortnite in the middle of the ocean that they released in April 2018, former MrBeast editor Matt Turner would allege that Chris, MrBeast, and others made NSFW jokes about their current manager Dan's son, and that one day he snapped and attacked a cameraman, in which they hired Delaware shortly after in an interview on the H3H3 podcast on August 9th, 2024.
And so a funny antidote I had was, no one has ever said this, and it's why Delaware actually needed to come in. It was because at the time, the first manager that ever worked there, his name was Dan. Sorry, Dan. And he was actually a really good guy, but everyone was consistently making these jokes wildly inappropriate about his 5-year-old kid.
Ew.
And so,
Whoa.
I know.
Like what?
And so, gonna go home and fuck insert name.
What?
The craziest thing.
Who was saying that?
I know. Well, Ava, Jimmy, it was the thing. It was funny edgelord kids, which is crazy.
So hold on, this guy Dan is just a normal ass dude with a daughter.
Son, but yeah.
A son. And so they were all joking about
they would make these crazy jokes,
child.
and one day we were filming the video playing Fortnite in the middle of the ocean, and one too many jokes got said, and bro flipped. Understandably, he couldn't take it anymore, and he took a cameraman and he threw him into the water, and it was a whole big problem. And so then the next day, he was fired. Delaware came in a week later, and it's so funny how this same environment that we're around kids all the time, that's his fan base, and then he brings in Delaware. There's this fostered environment with Lolly that they all think is so funny, and it's the combination that doesn't sit very well when you add all three of those things up. So yeah, it was just nuts.
Again, this is all just hearsay, and I don't think we'll ever be able to figure out the truth here, or hell, even figure out who this Dan guy is, or if we even speak out about it on a public level, but it is worth showing y'all. I know some people are saying, well, Jimmy was 19 years old and so he didn't know any better to do a background check on Delaware. And while I would normally be okay-ish with this excuse, the fact it seems they found out and kept him on the team for a little bit longer muddies this up a bit. Again, I believe they still kept him for a short while after finding out because he shows up with a mask and was going by a different name. I just don't know who made the decision to get rid of him, as it was either MrBeast finally coming to his senses, or Night Media finding out and advising him to do so, knowing it can make him and the company look bad. I don't think we'll ever figure out the exact reasons behind his firing, but to me, these seem to be the major two going on here. There's this part of Dawson's video where he introduces a recorded conversation that he found of a former MrBeast employee talking about Delaware, and I want you to listen to how he introduces it to the audience.
Okay, so finally I have a recorded phone conversation. The person on the other end of this line is a different former MrBeast employee talking about Delaware. Also, apparently before this phone conversation got recorded, the person on the other end of the line said that the MrBeast team was actually trying to expunge Delaware's record off the registry, and that's what actually sparked this person to start recording. Now,
as you can see, he introduces it as if he found it out himself somehow, and at the very end says the other person on the line who wasn't the employee was told the MrBeast team was trying to expunge Delaware's record for some reason, even though he doesn't work at the company anymore. Forget that last part. I'm confident that the person was lying to Dawson and he just believed him and didn't look into it any further. As it turns out, the former employee was secretly recorded by an unknown friend of his, aka the other person on the line, without his permission, and 2 weeks after this, Dawson would release the video with the audio in it.
Do you really want me to go into detail about how you and your cronies tricked an employee into saying what you wanted him to say to support your lies, and then you guys recording him and using that recording without his consent? Okay. Hi Garrett, can you tell me a bit about how long you worked at MrBeast?
I was at MrBeast from around 2017 to 2021.
So you've worked there for 5 years and could be seen as a credible ex-employee.
Yep.
You're the person who we can hear talk about Delaware in the recording Dawson or DogPack404 shows in his video. Can you tell me a bit about how that happened?
Yeah, it was not to my knowledge that I was being recorded at all. You know, I have a friend who, you know, I worked with plenty of times outside of MrBeast. Just thought it was just like a normal call, just checking up on him, him checking up on me. And, you know, when two people speak about old places, you know, there's drama, there's gossip, there's catching up, there's, you know, et cetera, whatever. And then the next thing you know, 2 weeks later, DogPack releases like a 12 million view video where, you know, I just have a really crappy voice changer over my voice. And if you know me, like, you know it's me.
So was the entire call basically just rumors you were talking about with a friend?
Yeah, it's just a friend. We're just shooting the shit, and you know, we're just gossiping a lot, catching up on, you know, the current drama. Like it's just it is nothing crazy. Like
nothing you said had any actual facts behind it, as they try to construe in their video.
No, I don't. You know, I don't think any of the stuff that we were talking about really had any facts or like evidence. It was just water cooler talk.
Given that the video was released 2 weeks after the call was recorded, I don't know if Dawson was in on this or the guy just came to him with the secretly recorded audio, but it shows that Dawson didn't do his due diligence to make sure this was ethically acquired and instead got caught up going after MrBeast so much that he didn't even care it could potentially ruin another person's job in future job endeavors. Now where things get interesting again is that Dawson would go on to twist Jake Weddle's tongue of how one time an employee saw how bad of a shape he was in during his challenge and made a comment about it being a war crime.
I just wanted to turn the lights off. And I'm vocalizing to people, I wish the lights would turn off. And I go up to my friend, my good friend. And I go, they're not turning the lights off. He goes, what? That's a war crime. We're not allowed to do that to terrorists. Oh good. 24 hours breaking the Geneva Convention, I guess, is what we're doing.
Now, as you can see, Jake tells his friend how they said they were doing a war crime on set by keeping the lights on at all times. It's clear, however, that this was a joke and not a war crime, but rather the employee just trying to lighten the mood. And in fact, Jake himself would admit that it was a joke in his video talking about Jake the Viking.
One of my dear friends who I believe I lost, the same guy who did the war crime joke, which turned out to not be a joke.
Now he says it wasn't a joke right after slipping up there, but let's be real. Jake wasn't a detainee of war being tortured against his own will, just like how the Survivor contestants aren't either despite both parties going through hardships in their challenges. I know that Dawson didn't care to look into the actual rules of the Geneva Convention and just threw it on screen and used the term war crime to imply the MrBeast team was doing something super heinous to Jake because the term has heavy implications to it, but so many people kept saying that they committed a war crime despite this being untrue because they weren't at war. The worst thing you can pin on MrBeast for this is that they were pretty fucked up for what they did to Jake Weddle, and he probably could and should, in my opinion, have sued them for what they did to him involving the treadmill situation. But he didn't sue, and instead kept the story to himself until he contacted Dawson wanting to talk about it, so it is what it is. Also, before we finish off this chapter, I do want to point out Jake got paid for how much he made it in, plus an extra $50K after MrBeast saw the video and how he felt. So don't think Jake didn't make any money from this, cause he did, just thought to point that out. Now, I was initially on board with Dawson's videos because I wasn't digging through each and every claim to see if they were true or not, as I was working on other projects at the time. My rationale for not looking into it myself until recently was because if some random former employee was willing to say things that can quite literally ruin the rest of his entire life and any future job aspirations, I was willing to give him the benefit of the doubt because it's way too insane to imagine. However, part 3 of his MrBeast series is what tipped the scales for me, in which the video, a video that has since been unlisted by the way, will end up going down as the first major piece in unraveling just how far he was willing to take it in order to go after MrBeast. Now this video is pretty simple to break down despite its 30-minute runtime. As to make a long story short, Dawson would expose that former MrBeast COO LaKoya Hill was moved to another spot in the company due to a sexual harassment situation that went down with his assistant. before eventually coming back around a year or two later as COO once again after the other employee moved on to another job outside their company entirely, meaning that the MrBeast company knew that LaQuoya Hill was a disgusting person and still kept him around. LaQuoya has since moved on from the company this past summer, but the main big thing, however, is that Dawson would allege that the CEO at the time of the MrBeast company, James Warren, was physically assaulting his girlfriend and had charges against him.
So quick profile on James Warren. He's Jimmy's cousin and secret CEO, and I say secret because, you know, they're not very open about that fact. Like, he doesn't post about it on social media. It wasn't ever attached to his LinkedIn. He's never featured or really referenced anywhere. I heard that he's very aggressive. I've heard him referred to as a psychopath who screams at people and hits his girlfriends. There's allegedly domestic violence charges that were filed against him. And I say allegedly because it turns out there's a lot of people in North Carolina named James Warren who assault their girlfriends, I guess. So I'm still having people look into these cases.
Now, this is a pretty big and serious claim to make. And at the time, me and many others didn't know Dawson had been playing us so hard because the other two videos at the surface were fine. And I was one of those people who is still following that and even said stuff publicly in support of him. However, Dawson would end up being completely wrong about James Warren, as it would turn out he was not assaulting his girlfriend or any of the stuff he said about him. He simply just heard someone say this and ran with it, and in turn would end up lying about the man to millions of people online. This was a moment where I dropped any sort of MrBeast video plan entirely and started looking into Dawson with more scrutiny, as he quite literally just lied about a man doing some very heinous stuff simply because he was too lazy to vet his sources correctly. This worried me thinking his other videos were deceptive, which as we've now seen is mostly the case, meaning that things were a whole lot deeper here than what it seemed. I got fooled and have regretted anything I've said before that moment, and I apologize for it, because until that moment, I really thought the guy was onto something. That's still not to take away from the LaQuoya Hill stuff though. Dawson was right about that. That begs a question. Was it MrBeast the person who made these decisions to keep LaQuoya Hill around and not fire him? Or was it MrBeast the company who did so instead? Well, I'm sure it was the company's idea to keep him around, but I'm also sure that MrBeast knew that LaQuoya was being moved around, as it's rumored he's originally moved to a dubbing company called Unilingo before the MrBeast company allegedly poached employees from them to form Creator Global, as I highly doubt MrBeast himself wasn't informed the reason a very important employee of his company was being moved around elsewhere. Also, that whole Unilingo conspiracy on whether the MrBeast company poached employees or not seems to have some movement, as on November 16th, just before Dawson got exposed, Unilingo CEO Farbad Mansourian would post a picture with him, but I'm not going to get into that right now as I feel that story is only just beginning here. Now, to give some benefit of the doubt, it's very common in a corporate world to deal with harassment claims by separating the people without firing either. The main goal is to get the two people to have no possible way of ever being in the same presence during work ever again until one leaves or they're somehow able to hash things out on their own terms. So moving LaQuoya to another spot in a company that's related to them isn't anything that hasn't been done countless times before. Whether you agree with the idea of keeping LaQuoya around is all up to you as a person, but as far as the company goes, they didn't do anything egregious or out of character and not take the situation seriously, because they did fine as far as it seems. I know it's a heavily debated upon topic, but I want to let you guys understand this better so you can make a better opinion about this, because not a lot of people seem to know that this is a common practice in companies when stuff goes down like this. On top of that, given we don't know the raw details on how far LaQuoya took it, I myself can't make a proper judgment on whether the company made the right move to keep him around but away from his former assistant, or if they messed up by keeping him in the company still, and I don't think we'll ever figure out what LaQuoya did in specific with hard evidence to back it up, so it is what it is. It's also worth pointing out that the company dropped both LaQuoya and James Warren after everything went down. I thought I should just make that clear to y'all. Now, alongside Dawson, there was another person who was going gung-ho at MrBeast, and that was YouTuber Rosanna Pansino. To make a long story short, Rosanna was in the video Extreme 1 Million Hide and Seek and claimed she got 3rd place, yet the video was edited to make it seem as if she got a different place instead. Now, we already know by now that the MrBeast team isn't honest in making truthful tellings of what went down recording the footage, but people go after Rosanna for daring to talk bad about the at the time most beloved and untouchable creator on the platform. Now, this wasn't the only reason that Rosanna disliked MrBeast, as she would go on to say that he talked to her one day about this cool new company called Secret Sauce that could help run her Facebook account, only for her to find out from an employee, either Secret Sauce or MrBeast itself, I can't tell, that Jimmy himself owned it and never disclosed that to her, basically sneakily adding a new client to a company of his in order to make more money. She would leak the first draft of the contract that was made up and reveal the company was based in the Netherlands, so she never expected him to be involved in it, and she only found out he was involved in it after she got in contact with an ex-employee to help her get access to her Facebook account after Secret Sauce shut down out of the blue one day. It's also been written off the commercial register in the Netherlands for those wondering, meaning she's not lying here, and I don't think she's lying about MrBeast being involved because it would be very stupid of her to do and open her up to getting sued. Now, Rosanna has made a handful of videos talking about some other stuff involving the Beast games, but the main thing that caught my interest was when Dawson appeared with her in the video, MrBeast is a criminal, showing that the two of them are working together now. She would talk about how MrBeast was gambling when he was underage, which I'm just gonna be real, I don't care about, but she then says that he's exposing children to gambling. Now, in my opinion, if someone wants to go after MrBeast for doing this, I believe they should also go after Nintendo for doing the same thing, promoting the game of poker in the picture poker minigame on Super Mario 64 DS and New Super Mario Bros. DS also aimed at children as well. I'm gonna be honest, this whole exposing children to gambling thing sounds like people trying to morally grandstand instead of actually going after the hard-hitting stuff, as all it does is muddy the waters and take away from the Delaware and LaCroix Hill situations, but that's besides the point and I don't want to get hung up on it, so I'll be moving on now. Now, the two of them again to MrBeast and his cryptocurrency stuff and speculate on whether he was doing illegal crypto shenanigans. I would normally break this down, but YouTuber CoffeeZilla already has, so if you want to know the full story to that, go check out his video. The TLDR is basically we don't know if it was MrBeast making the crypto trades or what could possibly be his fund manager Jason Williams, but again, check it out for more info. However, the point here is that Dawson is now officially working with Rosanna Pansino, a YouTuber with a bone to pick with MrBeast and who also has over 14 million subscribers, meaning that the news they're covering together is going to get a whole lot of more people looking at it. Where stuff gets wild is that Dawson and Rosanna will work on another video going over some leaked DMs from a MrBeast work group chat on Telegram. Now, the entire video frames it as if it was a work chat and how they were saying inappropriate things in a work setting, and basically playing moral games of how they think it's bad to make edgy jokes in a work chat. However, where things get bad is that Dawson would go on to say that MrBeast knew Chris Tyson was a freak because he recommended an anime to them that had a certain storyline going on.
Let's see if Jimmy knew about Ava's concerning behavior. June of 2021, he sends a message of an anime called Higihiro. It says, I bet Chris would love this show. Why?
What's this show about?
Well, it's interesting that you ask because this show is about a romantic relationship between a 26-year-old salaryman and a 17-year-old high school runaway. It's well known online to be a controversial anime. And this anime is based on even more explicit novels that go into the details of this romantic relationship between an adult and an underage girl.
So Jimmy in the chats is saying, I bet Chris would love this show because it's right up her alley.
Why do you think Chris would love that show, Jimmy?
Why specifically this anime out of all animes out there?
Now, the storyline isn't actually them dating each other, but rather so the adult helping fix the teenager's life after he finding her in the streets and learning she went through hardships. But I'm not going to get into that because in my opinion, using this anime recommendation that MrBeast knew Chris was a freak is really weak, as we still have that screenshot of the Shadman poster that Chris bought and framed on his wall, and that by far is much bigger evidence than this by a long shot. They do talk about it for a bit, but still, that is far better evidence than the anime one, and it just feels like nitpicking for tiny little things that don't really add more to what already exists. Now, the claims of it being a work chat, well, when the video dropped, people took them at their word, but through leaks, it turns out the chat started off as a non-company NSFW chat to post edgy memes that was made by none other than Chris Tyson themselves in June 2019. There's even a time where Chris explicitly states this is a non-company meme chat, again reinforcing this is not work-related at all. Eventually, it would turn into a work chat 2 years later in July 2021, and Chris would kick out non-employees from the place. And by September, just 2 months later, the recorded footage would stop as you can see the icon in the corner disappear when a person scrolled to the bottom, showing that it died off pretty quickly. So no, this wasn't a work chat the entire time. It was a non-company meme chat up until July 2021, in which it would die just 2 months later because no one liked it anymore. Rosanna and Dawson borderline lied to people here, because while it was technically a work chat at one point, they never disclosed it was only for 2 months, and the viewers are led to believe that all posts during this are in the work chat era when they were not. As far as the memes go, I don't give a fuck. I grew up on the edgy side of the internet, so none of this is shocking to me, and like how Dawson tries to pretend it shocks him, as I very much doubt he doesn't know what edgy memes are. So I can kind of buy the idea Rosanna might be genuine with her shock, because all she does is make cake baking videos and doesn't seem to be deep with the internet stuff like most of y'all watching this video probably are. I will say though, I did find this one meme Chris Tyson posted heavily ironic given what's gone down the past few months, but that's besides the point here, so I'll be moving on. Also, when thinking about it, I don't really care if it was a work chat or not, because I've been in work chats at my old jobs where we will literally shitpost all the time despite being co-workers. I find it very distracting from the main point here, which is mainly Chris Tyson posting these weird memes, and though the one on screen is a little bit funny for those with an edgy sense of humor, now knowing that Chris was having minors moderate an NSFW bot on Discord and showing them NSFW material really takes things in a much darker turn. That should be the main focus here, not this is it a work chat or not stuff. Either way, this whole is it a work chat or not rhetoric is honestly distracting from the main point going on here, so I'll be moving on. Now this next part is by far the most shocking, however. As in the thumbnail, you can see a blurred out picture of someone implying that something bad must be going on here. It turns out Chris Tyson posted the unblurred version to the group chat at one point and alleged that it was Ivanka Trump when she was naked at 13 years old, meaning if what Chris was saying was true, this was literal CP they were spreading around. As you can see in the screenshot I took of their video, they said they censored it themselves in post, meaning they downloaded what they thought was actual real-life CP for a YouTube video thumbnail. Dawson even admitted so that they did the censoring themselves after downloading the image in question in a since deleted YouTube community tab post, and would even admit in the video that he reverse image searched what he thought was CP.
And then I've done a reverse image search, and I mean, it seems plausible that it is.
Why would you ever send somebody a picture of a 13-year-old topless?
A lot of people on the internet are labeling this picture as Ivanka Trump. I can't find any definitive proof that it is, but
It looks like her.
It does look like her, but like, yeah, it looks bad.
Dawson has gone on to claim that he actually reverse image searched the censored version he made, but that still means he downloaded or at least screenshotted uncensored CP to begin with, so it doesn't really make much of a difference here. I'm fairly certain it was just Dawson doing the censoring himself, as on Reddit he would say it was only him, and I believe that as Rosanna doesn't exactly seem to be the smartest when it comes to dealing with real, illegal, alleged CP given she used it for clickbait on a YouTube video thumbnail, and because she mostly makes cake videos, is simply out of her league. Now the biggest kicker of all is that despite accusing Chris Tyson of sending real CP in the group chat and despite Dawson downloading and censoring what he thought was real CP, it turns out this is actually a photo of Ivanka Trump when she was 18 years old in a British GQ magazine released back in the year 2000. So this means the image that they were accusing of being CP wasn't CP? They just did poor research yet again and in turn trying to label MrBeast and his company as pedos, to put it bluntly. Not only did Dawson and Rosanna get extremely lucky this wasn't CP given the legal ramifications that could have gone down, MrBeast in my opinion now has a legal reason to fully go after Rosanna for posting these lies to her millions of viewers. I frankly couldn't believe this happened. I figured they would not make such serious false allegations like this, especially Dawson after the James Warren stuff, but he instead continued to lie and almost got himself and Rosanna investigated by the police in the process, showing just how reckless he is in his attempts to go after MrBeast and his brand. Now I mentioned earlier that there was one part of Soggy Cereal's video that I did not like, and that was the interviews of the MrBeast employees at MrBeast HQ. I'll get into the reason why later on, so let me start it from the beginning and explain it to y'all. On October 13th, 2024, Soggy Cereal would release a since deleted video talking about slop content, and in the video he would talk bad about Dawson and leak some of their DMs showing that he dislikes the guy because he was threatening to expose stuff that isn't relevant to this video. That same day, MrBeast ended up following him on Twitter as he admits so himself, meaning that MrBeast saw his video, saw he was shitting on Dawson, and liked it and took interest in it personally, hence following him on Twitter. In Soggy's video about Dawson, we found out MrBeast employee Dustin Harris would personally contact him, as you can see by him mentioning how he liked this slop content video and reached out. Now in the video, Soggy never makes it clear when Dustin contacted him, but in some of their DMs you can see Dustin was already sending Soggy very important information for his video on Dawson just a day after MrBeast followed him, with that info being the video of the crew on the barge during the thunderstorm while filming the Stranded at Sea video. You can see that it says October 14th 1 PM Soggy's time, and while I can't tell if it's American or European, it still means within the first 24 hours of Soggy's slop content video dropping, MrBeast not only followed him, but an employee of the company would contact him personally and start spilling very important details his way. Now this was bugging me a bit because it read as if the company came to Soggy to start dropping info his way, but after talking to Soggy myself, he would end up confirming to me he actually reached out to the company himself on August 5th, showing that he made contact first on his own accord. He would even confirm that Dustin contacted him exactly on October 13th at 6 PM, and seeing that he reached out first proves that they weren't hunting him down, as he was already known to them about 2 months before Dustin and MrBeast made contact with him. However, Soggy failed to mention this chain of events in his video, and I think it's important because it makes him look better and makes MrBeast and Dustin look a little bit more suspicious in the process, as the timing of following and reaching out personally on their end is extremely coincidental. Something that Soggy also didn't mention in his video was the flight, as in an interview with streamer Chud Logic, he would reveal that after bringing up the idea of doing in-person interviews, Dustin was the one who pushed this to happen by not only paying for his flight, but also his hotel as well.
Since it was last moment and very expensive, Dustin, as far as I know, paid for those, and not on a MrBeast card, because when I got at like the hotel, which they said that it was on the card of like literally his name, like his personal card, not non-company cards.
This is already a huge shot against his credibility, even if he didn't realize it at the time. And the fact he never made this clear to his audience shows that either A, he's in on this with Dustin and MrBeast, or B, he simply didn't understand just how bad this makes him look. However, I'm willing to bet it's the second option because if someone was in on this and knew it was a bad look, they wouldn't talk about it publicly. Soggy just did it all nonchalantly and within hours after his video dropped. However, he still failed to mention this in his video, as this information recontextualizes everything going on here and does make him look bad no matter how you spin it. I know he's since made an update in the description and the comments section, but still, he should have made this clear from the very beginning because there are a lot of people out there who think he was in on this op with MrBeast and Dustin. Soggy also said at one point that MrBeast knew Dustin was speaking to him, which given the coincidental timing of following and contacting him, just adds even more suspicion to everything going on here.
Jimmy didn't he didn't know who I interviewed. He didn't know, he knew that Dustin was like, talking to me and stuff.
Yeah.
To some extent.
Yeah.
And get this, within the first 24 hours of Soggy Cereal's video dropping, MrBeast himself would comment on it showing his support, again showing his personal interest in seeing this video get a positive reception online. Let me make it clear to y'all, it's extremely out of character for any big YouTuber, especially the biggest on the platform, to comment on a video unless it's nepotism or they have personal interest in the project, especially when we know MrBeast had some sort of interest in behind the scenes, hence knowing Dustin was speaking to Soggy. Soon after Soggy's video dropped, another YouTuber named Timeworks would do the typical commentary thing where they regurgitate it for their own views that same day. And just like Soggy's video, MrBeast would also comment on this one, showing that he's happy seeing Soggy's videos being reviewed in a positive light and that the news is being pushed around the internet. So it's clear that MrBeast wants people to see this video and is happy seeing it being spread around, so he would make sure that the right people are watching as he would take things a step further and personally message big content creators like Dylan Zitkiss with 3 million subscribers, Pansino with 5 million across his multiple channels, and Turkey Tom with around 1 million himself to name a few. Twitter user AngelFacePeanut will message Soggy about how MrBeast is hiding in the shadows yet pulling strings around by messaging influential people to cover his video, and Soggy will show his discontent and say that he still has things he should address himself despite now getting exposed for sneakily spreading it around behind the scenes. Soggy will end up making a thread about how he doesn't like that MrBeast is pushing his video around to big content creators rather than covering it on his own terms, and ends things off saying he feels disgusted and used because of how things are going down now. I did say I didn't trust the employees he interviewed, and it's actually quite simple. It's because the same exact people are starting to show up in other people's YouTube videos, such as this one by YouTuber It's Blanco. One would think that if people are looking into this, they would interview multiple different employees for all their takes, yet it's the same group of people. Now granted, this can easily be explained as others being scared of showing their faces online and therefore getting dragged into this mess. But it's still something that throws me off to not trust their word of mouth, because who's to say that the MrBeast company didn't just get these few people and coach them into giving the interviews the public wanted to hear? After all, they're literally employed by the company and therefore will downplay things in order to not get socially ostracized from their peers or potentially fired, so the fact it's the same set of faces appearing on other channels, it's just weird to me. I do want to point out it's just my personal reason why I don't trust their word, just to make it clear before I move on, so yeah, there you have it. Based on the way things have been broken down, while I can't prove that Dustin contacted Soggy at MrBeast's orders, it's very clear that MrBeast had personal interest in Soggy, hence following him the day his slot video dropped. And it was extremely coincidental that Dustin also contacted him within mere hours of its release as well. Given that MrBeast was aware Soggy and Dustin were talking, at least according to Soggy, was offered to pay for his flight and hotel by Dustin, and that the man himself immediately started to spread his video around behind the scenes in the shadows of big people, I'm very confident they plan to use Soggy. You have to remember, MrBeast is smart. He knows that more eyes on a video making Dawson look bad is a good look no matter what, hence why he's hitting up all these big content creators to watch it. Sure, let's say that Pansino doesn't like the video for some reason. Well, not all 500,000 viewers might have the same opinion as him, and in turn this would be the start of the public slowly starting to shift on Dawson, something that MrBeast very well wants to happen given what he's done to him and his company. It's some smart social engineering going on here, I won't lie. And according to Rosanna Pansino, MrBeast has even hired Matthew Hiltzik's crisis management company Hiltzik Strategies to help rehabilitate his image, and for those that don't know who Matthew is, he ain't no slack. He was strategically in the background helping rehabilitate actor Johnny Depp's public image during the Amber Heard trial, which before that went down was in a complete gutter. We all know how that went. Heard lost and Depp is now seen in a positive light in the mainstream media again, so he and his team know exactly what they're doing down to a T. In fact, what makes me even more confident this wasn't up was that despite Soggy Cereal's video being only 5 days old as it came out November 15th, 2024, MrBeast was able to participate in an interview with YouTuber Oompaville as he reveals on November 20th. I have no doubt in my mind that they waited to see the public's response to the video before following through accepting his offer, as I can guarantee you that if it was poorly received on its initial release, they would have kept ignoring or pushing things back with him. Oh, but this interview wasn't even step 2 of the public rehabilitation process, as back in October during the production of Soggy Cereal's video, it was said that football star Cristiano Ronaldo filmed a collab with MrBeast for his YouTube channel, And guess what video just happened to finally release on November 21st, just 6 days after Soggy's video dropped? You already know, you can see it on screen right now. And it's pretty obvious that this video is being used for the mainstream non-internet addicted people and kids, as when they see MrBeast hanging around Ronaldo despite the controversy coming his way, they're gonna think to themselves, oh, he must be doing better if Ronaldo's team is letting this happen. And then if some of those look into this themselves to get more details, they're gonna run to Soggy's video and see how it presents Dawson as a disgruntled employee who went scorched earth after getting fired from his job only 3 weeks into it. Oh yeah, that thing I've been teasing throughout the video, despite Dawson implying he played out his whole contract with MrBeast, he lied again. He actually got fired just 3 weeks into the job by none other than Okoye Hill himself, with him giving the audio to Soggy Cereal to play in his video.
I'm Okoye, I'm our COO. Part of my job is you're pushing back on everything that we're saying. So
Well, because you're trying to fire me, and I want to work at this company.
I'm the CEO of this company. If I'm talking, don't interrupt me. And I am telling you this is what's happening, and you're telling me that I'm wrong. I am not wrong. I've made the decision. Here, we will take care of.
I appreciate that. Can I please have a second chance?
It's not.
Just, if I'm getting paid, just let me come in and let me try to be coached. But if Hoodie changes his mind, can I? I've been trying to get to this point of working on MrBeast for I think there are other people at the company. If I were to switch departments, that would be very happy to have me. I don't care about the salary.
It's not.
Car, we are still going to reimburse you.
This is the original contract and the original NDA.
It all makes sense why he went after Okoye in specific now. He made the decision to fire Dawson, and Dawson wanted revenge. And so he would take all those things he disliked about the company already, despite still wanting to work for them, mind you, find some more dirt to build up his video, and when seeing the Chris Tyson exposure was going down very shortly after getting fired, decided it was time to get back at the company and ruin the reputation for firing him. As for why he was fired, it was apparently because he was using company funds to get an Apple Vision Pro behind their backs despite them denying his initial request. But frankly, I don't think we'll ever know the truth behind this because both parties are untrustworthy at this point in my opinion. Either way, Dawson believes the company did him wrong and that's why he started his campaign against him, and in turn his bloodlust will lead him to misconstruing facts, deceptively editing clips, and outright lying about him in order to get back at him. All these bad faith tactics would eventually get exposed against him in the Soggy Cereal video, and now that public opinion is starting to shift in MrBeast's favor in videos like Blanco's with his own interviews and the Cold Ones episode they recorded back in June 5 months ago both coincidentally coming out, and now that they're comfortable pairing him next to the most popular football star in the world and showing it to the public, the Oompaville interview was step 3 in their plan to now get the internet drama / news crowd to start liking him again. Of course, I would sit back and wait for it to drop after putting all this together to see if it'd work or not, and let's just say the interview is a little bit interesting indeed. On November 22nd, 2024, Oompaville would release his interview with MrBeast, a 2-hour 40-minute dive into the biggest YouTuber finally responding to the allegations levied against him. He even says that he made a response vid where he was sitting down in front of a camera but he didn't like it because he doesn't know how to handle a situation like this, and even gives Soggy's video multiple shoutouts throughout the runtime.
Yeah, which obviously had so much disinformation in it. If anyone saw Soggy's video or any of the newer videos now coming out, like you would see so much. So much of it. So it's.
But given how shady that situation seems to have been, it was clearly a calculated mention to push people to go watch his video if they haven't already. They would talk about what it's like running a company and how it's impossible to make sure nothing bad happens given he has hundreds of employees. Which does make sense as it's true. Nobody's gonna know what's happening at every single level in their company because there's so many people working. Now a lot of the initial videos, mainly company related stuff, having to do with how it's run and how they should be more transparent with their production process. But then around the 15-minute mark, Oompa brings up the tweets by Soggy Cereal and how he felt MrBeast was using him, in which he has this to say about it.
To sort of timestamp when this video is being recorded so people know. He said, Soggy has criticized you sharing his video with other YouTubers as a way to shield yourself from criticism, you know, like DMing the video to people. He also expressed feeling used by you, given that you used his video as a strategy to gather favor from the public, which, you know, that's pretty wordy. It's like it just happened today. It's got to be something like, how do you feel about him feeling that way? Because he's not really defending you. He's more so trying to hold light to truth, which I appreciate that massively. And I do, you know, talking to him, I do believe that he is an honest guy. How do you interpret his responses on Twitter if you've seen them? Have you seen them?
Yeah, I've seen them. I interpret as him just trying to be honest with his audience and just expressing how he feels. And I think, you know, obviously he probably, in his head, if he was even being more honest, he'd probably be like, Jimmy, why don't you just say these things? Why am I saying it? You know, and I think, obviously, now that I'm here and doing this, that will alleviate it. But I could see how it feels. Like, obviously, I saw that video and it, you know, disproved. I mean, there are a lot of there are some things in there I don't agree with, and he does go pretty hard on me, so which people seem to forget. But there are a lot of things in there that he disproved, and yeah, I mean, I got excited and shot it over to a bunch of creators who covered the false information, and was just like, look, you know, I could see how, you know, that looks like I'm hiding behind it. Luckily, I'm here talking to you, so I don't think that will be a problem anymore. But obviously, you know, he's not, when he tweeted that, he, you know, doesn't know we were doing this, doesn't know this is coming out. I mean, he might now. I don't, you know, you talk to him, but yeah. So like, I don't blame him. You know what I mean? It's a reasonable thing. Like, I think if I were to read a little between lines, he's just saying like, I don't want to be a shield. Jimmy, say something. You know what I mean? Like, actually go address things and like,
yeah, because he's really not defending you.
It's really interesting to me to see him stumbling his words around, because it's very clear that Soggy feels as if he was used by MrBeast, and MrBeast doesn't really get into that, instead just saying that he was being fair and went hard on him in the video. Spoiler alert, Soggy does not go hard on MrBeast in the upload despite MrBeast saying he did, and after pointing everything out as we saw earlier, I very much doubt they didn't use him as a Kickstarter for the potential comeback campaign, because let's say it didn't go good, well, then none of this would be happening. He would even get into how MrBeast commented on the video after its upload, in which he says this exactly as far as that section of the video goes.
You left a comment on Soggy's video after it was posted. You said, "This is finally a video that doesn't spread baseless slander about me."
Yeah, I mean,
Lol.
obviously that was a stupid comment. Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Dude, how do you think that looks? I mean.
Yeah, dumb. Like,
yeah.
Agreed.
Okay.
Especially the LOL. That just yeah.
Yeah.
Next question.
Yeah.
Dumb.
Yeah.
The answer, dumb. Yes.
Okay. That's fair. Yeah, I guess so.
No precedent how he did it on another video, and no further precedent on why he kept sending it to multiple big content creators either. Just one short, one and done answer, showing that Oompa does not seem interested in actually pressing the man, but just letting him speak and nothing more. Oompaville then gets into the illegal lotteries, with MrBeast saying that he has his team looking into it and refuses to admit if that one that Soggy claimed was illegal was indeed illegal or not, basically just trying to skim ahead to the next question.
Do you believe that you ran an illegal lottery? Did you believe at the time? What was your mindset? Did you check with the FCC? Was there any compliance, any steps taken to prevent this? What is your just perspective on that?
Yes. So I don't think we did. I have people looking into it and like trying to pull the footage and figure it out. You know, he disproved the two, which I mean, those were crazy. I don't want to just like speculate. I have a team looking into it. I don't think we did though. But regardless, just to be truthful, if people want a refund or think for whatever reason, like we did something wrong, like I'll send you a link that you can just put in the description where they can get a refund. Maybe just throw it on the screen here.
Okay.
But yeah, I mean, at the moment, that's all I really have to say. Maybe I could do a follow-up in the future. I'm trying to, you know, dig up all the footage from that live stream. This was like many years ago. Like this isn't like something I did 3 months ago.
Yeah. COVID. It was 2020, right?
I don't remember.
I think the first one, the questionable one that Soggy had in his video was in 2020. I think it was in August 2020.
And I just don't have the footage from him, so
yeah.
I'm looking them up.
Gotcha. Yeah. I think. I think at the very least, you know, if people felt misled or whatever, or if
100% request a refund.
Definitely.
I mean, we do that anyways. Like on our site, if people want refunds, we give it to them. But for this specifically, we can give you a URL, throw it right here. I mean, I have no idea what it'll be, and yeah, just send us your order code. Really no big deal.
Oompa was then asked the question of the hour around the 1 hour mark as well, and I'll just let it play out for y'all.
Well, you know, there's tons of examples of him intentionally manipulating things to not be true and posting it online. Tons and tons and tons of that. Soggy has basically an hour and 27-minute video, and an hour of it is just flat out proving manipulation and lies, and caused a lot of harm to my businesses. I mean, I've literally had people pull out millions of dollars and then tell me it was directly because of his video. And don't worry, I instantly was like, can you send that in writing? So, you know, if I win a case or anything, I can directly point damages. No reason why. And so, I mean, it's just unfortunate. Like, I don't want to be put in this situation, but probably gonna have to. I mean, it's just, I mean, what do you do if someone's just spreading misinformation about you and, you know, just causing harm to your business and like getting it to the point where you might have to potentially fire people because it's costing you so much revenue? It's like, it's not fair to the people in my companies. You know what I mean? It's just sad, you know. It's not a thing I take joy in, but
right.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, okay. So, yes.
They're not done drafting it up, but once they're done, more than likely, yeah.
Okay. Interesting. Yeah,
that's every law firm I've talked to, they're like, this would be the easiest win they've ever seen in their life. I mean, it's like crazy. I had one tell me like you could chop up all the evidence into like 3, sue 3 separate times, and win all 3 cases because you'd have enough for each. Like one person I was talking to, he's won like 67 out of his last 70 cases, and he's like, this would be literally the easiest case I've ever done. Like it's because there's just so much blatant, misinformation and lies spread. Like, I mean, it's crazy. I mean, just go watch Soggy's video. Go look at his Twitter where he's redacted multiple ones of it. I mean,
yeah.
I don't know. I don't want to be in this position.
Oompaville will then get into the crypto allegations against him, in which MrBeast would have this to say about it.
Well, so I'll start off with the report. I mean, most people probably haven't even read it, but that's what kind of spawned that whole thing was this. Did you see it? Like that? Yeah. So the gist of this crypto report that was, 1 second, sorry, it's not my. The gist of this report was Jimmy is too stupid to like make this kind of money, therefore it must be insider trading. This is his wallet, clearly there was insider trading because he never would have been able to make this kind of money. When in reality, which is what I told Coffee in that statement we gave him, it was managed by a fund. So I wasn't the one managing the wallet. I've never had access to that wallet. I've never done the buying and selling on that wallet. There's an actual professional who's written books on crypto and lived and breathes crypto every second of the day managing it. So most of the allegations there are just answered by I am too stupid to do that. That's why a fund was managing it, you know what I mean?
So, MrBeast on the record has said that he has no hands in the pot and it's just his fund manager. Yet in the past on a podcast, he also said himself he bought stuff before. Just thought to really point that out here. Oompaville will then get into the Delaware situation, which is one of the most important stuff out of everything in my opinion, in which MrBeast says this about it.
For the context around it, I heard it when I was 19, so I was a teenager, and this is kind of leans a little bit into what we were talking before. This is back when it was just a couple of my friends from high school, my mom. My videos were getting bigger. I needed more help, and so I walked in because I'm dumb. I probably should have gone on some site and hired people who had production experience, but instead, I walked into my local Best Buy and I just hired multiple people. Obviously, when I was a teenager, I didn't know what a background check was. And I just hired a couple people there that wanted to help me make videos. One of them was the person named Delaware. And no, I did not know he was a registered sex offender. There's a rumor that's gone around that said that he sat me and my mom down and told us. Obviously, I don't remember that happening. And when I read that tweet, the first thing I did was I called my mom and I was like, hey, this is 7 or 8 years ago. Just put this in context. 7 or 8 years ago, not indicative of my company today, but I was like, did this happen? Because someone's claiming this happened. My mom said, I would have literally quit or honestly probably shut the business down before I ever let my teenage son hire a registered sex offender knowingly, which I have a very protective mom. So, I mean, even if you don't believe me, you should at least believe that. I feel like it's not absurd to believe that my mom wouldn't have knowingly let her teenage son hire a registered sex offender. That just doesn't even, in what world does that even make sense?
Yeah.
It's that just, that's just not even rooted in reality. So, but yeah, it's just an unfortunate thing that happened. Not that this, I take accountability. Yes, if I could go back in time, I would tell teenage me, hey, you're supposed to do background checks. 19-year-old me, he stared at retention charts all day. He obsessed over YouTube videos. He didn't know anything about running a business. I can't fully put myself in the mind of me 7 years ago, but I'm sure teenage me also thought hey, Best Buy is worth tens of billions of dollars in a big corporation. They also didn't do background checks. And I probably thought oh, I'm hiring from this big business. It's probably fine. You know what I mean? Or maybe I didn't put much thought into it because I was just making videos. But regardless, we do background checks now, and we do these things. I've been doing it for a long time, and it's just an unfortunate thing. But I just for context though, just to give to a lot of people listening, or watching, I called after that stuff came out too, because I was just curious. I called I don't know the exact number, maybe 24 YouTubers, and I asked them do you guys do background checks? And I think a dozen of those YouTubers have more than 10 employees, and literally only 2 of the 24 YouTubers I called do them. 6 of them were I don't even know how to do a background check. You know what I mean? And they all had employees. So I do, not that I'm not trying to deflect anything or whatever. I'm just trying to give context. It's it is a little much to just think that 19-year-old me was just supposed to know that and have this knowledge, and it's unfortunate, and like I said,
yeah. And to be fair, I keep saying that you're the guy. Back then, you weren't the guy.
I was not the guy.
So that's
calling what I had back then a company would be generous.
That was the boy. You were the boy.
That was that was the boy. And but yeah, now I have hundreds of employees. We obviously have rigorous standards for that kind of stuff.
Oompaville then brings up the Jake Weddle situation, and when explaining how some contestants have different levels they could handle, not once does he talk about the treadmill situation that happened. In fact, it's never brought up at all and instead just glossed over, meaning that MrBeast left out a very vital piece of information that for sure paints the company in a bad light. And the fact Oompa never noticed this again shows he's more interested in just letting the man speak than rather pressing him on stuff, especially this one, which is easily something that everybody knows about given it was the biggest part of Jake's entire situation. Oompaville will then get into the Beast game situation that's been going on and how its production hasn't been going so great, with MrBeast saying a lot of the issues involve the law so he can't talk about it, though he mentions the CloudStrike situation being something that really affected them pretty badly, which I actually looked into myself months ago and found out to be true as the dates matched up, and how they still pay people even if they get eliminated, which is typical of MrBeast productions. Honestly, the Beast game stuff, while very interesting to keep up with, is still something that needs a lot more investigating to happen, as some of the stuff sounds bad, but a lot of actual real evidence outside of testimony has been kept under wraps. So unless something really substantial leaks anytime soon, I'm just going to keep an eye out for it. The interview would wrap up soon after, leaving some questions unanswered unfortunately. The Oompaville would call him after the fact to clarify some things having to do with the crypto stuff, in which MrBeast again puts the responsibility on his fund manager, skirting by admitting if he has control over what the manager buys by saying how he told him about this NFT he was told about and told him to look into it to see if it's legit and buy into it if he wants, rather than saying to buy this now immediately. It's obvious he doesn't want to say if he outright controls it or not, because if he does, that's going to make the investigation into the crypto stuff a lot more interesting.
Well, I mean, yeah, I just told him, like, hey, Gary, like, in transparency, Gary called me about CryptoPunks and said they were cool, look into it. I mean, so at the end of the day, bro, I don't fucking know. Like, I don't know which punks to buy or which ones we should buy if it's a good investment. Like, that's why I, put the money in a fund and had professionals managing it.
Gotcha. Okay. Yeah, they're stupid as shit. I don't like any of the NFT stuff. I'm glad that's all kind of come and gone now. I like the newer era we're in.
Now there is one more thing that Oompaville brings up, and that's the Shadman stuff, as he never talked about it face to face with the guy, with this being his answer for that right here.
Back then, I used to have like a bunch of anime posters up on the wall. I'm just like set a foundation for context. We used to have a bunch of anime posters and things like that on our wall in the house. And one day, Ava put up this poster that was like an animated character holding a fidget spinner and a gun. Admittedly, it was a weird image. I didn't know who made it. I just kind of assumed it was a meme. I obviously did not know who Shadman was. I've never spoken with Shadman. I did not buy the poster or commission it or anything. And yeah, I mean, to be honest, I didn't really think too much of it because we just had like a lot of anime posters and things up, and it was an animated character that was clothed, obviously. And yeah, knowing what I know about Shadman now, it was a very weird thing to buy. I'm not really sure why she bought it, to be frank. And yeah, I mean, I wish I could give more details. I mean, this was so long ago. Obviously, I don't know the like exact thoughts going through my head, but I just remember, like, I agree, it is a little bit of a weird poster, but I also think like, I had like Naruto posters up, or I had like Code Geass posters, like random animes I used to watch, and like, I never like reversed image search and Googled, oh, who made this Code Geass anime poster that's sitting on the wall or whatever. I don't, I don't, your first instincts when you just see a poster is not to just go, who made that, and deep dive them. So
yeah, are they a pal? Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. So, but yeah, I agree. It's her buying it is very weird. And I, obviously, if I had known what I know now, I would have been like, what the actual.
Now he basically says he didn't know about Shadman and everything surrounding him. However, I think he's lying here, and the reason is because on screen you can see someone replying to a Shadman post with a MrBeast meme back in July 2018, with Chris responding below saying they love seeing a MrBeast meme under a Shadman post and adding MrBeast himself. The man of the hour would reply back saying, "That's all we've ever wanted, we can quit now." This implies that MrBeast knew Shadman's existence and lied to Oompaville over the phone, but I did say I think he's lying instead of for sure, and let me explain why I'm not 100% certain. It's quite simple actually. Given that his reply is hidden under 3 layers of separation, it's very possible all he did was see Chris add him on Twitter and so made a reply and moved on. That's not to say there's anything going on here, cause there is, as this next part I'm about to get into is more interesting in my opinion. So to make it short, there are a total of 7 videos where the Shadman poster is seen on the wall at MrBeast's home. The first time it would be seen would be in the video, I bought a BMW i8, uploaded on August 10th, 2017, in which it's seen in the background right behind him, and then also to his left when he moves his camera over to a new spot in his living room. The second would be the video, Worst Minecraft Intros Ever, uploaded on August 13th, which again is seen in the background on the wall. The third video would be donating $10,000 to random Twitch streamers on August 15th, in which again it can be seen on the background when he's introducing the sponsor for his viewers. The fourth would be the video tipping pizza delivery guys $10,000 uploaded on August 23rd, with this being the main video that people learned about the poster and started going down this rabbit hole with. At one point it looks like MrBeast is looking at the TV, then turns his eyes to the poster, and then starts laughing for some reason, but it's hard to say if it was what was on TV or the poster as the angle's a bit weird. The fifth video would be tipping Uber drivers $10,000 uploaded on August 30th, in which again is seen in the background on the wall. The sixth video would be what actually happens when you click on spam ads uploaded on October 1st, in which again it's seen right behind him on the wall, though this time you can see he has his whole computer desktop set up right next to it now, meaning that he not only has the poster in full view to him just above his head, he built his entire desk over the course of probably a day or two with it right there above him and still never thought to take it down. The seventh and final time so far would be the video Worst Roblox Intros Ever uploaded on October 13th, 2017, in which it's seen right behind him still and at his main computer desktop. Now obviously we already know that Chris was the one who bought the poster and that they are both anime fans who used to hang up posters of the shows they like on the wall, but it turns out that Chris actually moved out of MrBeast's place way back in that very first BMW upload as he would announce so to his viewers.
Something has to change because it's miserable sitting in that fucking room alone all day, editing, writing scripts, filming. I just don't want to do it. And also Chris, my roommate, moved out, so that doesn't really help either.
So this means that despite Chris moving out, MrBeast kept the Shadman poster up on his wall for at least 2 months and never thought to take it down, even building his computer setup with it directly over his head as well. That's also not to mention, in the BMW video you can see a poster on the wall near the door, some anime with the girl in red hair being the one that sticks out the most. Well, in the pizza delivery driver video, you can see next to the trash pile before it became his computer setup that the redhead anime girl poster has been taken down, meaning that MrBeast or his friend decided to take it down for whatever reason, yet no one decided to take the Shadman poster down still, and again, it stayed up for at least 2 months after Chris moved out. Even though we don't know when MrBeast first saw it, he definitely saw it before Chris moved out, hence it being hung up on the wall, meaning it's likely that MrBeast at the very least knew of Shadman's existence, as why would someone keep a poster on the wall from a friend who already moved out unless they knew the context behind it? It makes no sense to keep up a poster if you don't know where it's from, so this whole thing where MrBeast denies knowing what Shadman was at the time frankly sounds like a lie to me. Remember, he says he didn't know who made it, meaning he's pleading ignorance to the entire time it was on his wall for 2 months after Chris moved out. This is all too weird to me, and frankly I feel more will come out about this one day, because this is the biggest smoking gun against MrBeast so far outside the crypto stuff, and if it comes out one day he knew who Shadman was with hard evidence, it's not going to be easy for him to get out of that one. Speaking of crypto, despite MrBeast making it sound like he doesn't really understand it very well and would tell his fund manager to look into things instead of outright buying it himself, he would end up admitting in that BMW video that he understands cryptocurrencies very well as he gambled on it and it paid off big for him.
I should point out that a lot of the money for that car actually came from Bitcoin. I do a lot of investing in cryptocurrencies like Bitcoin, Ethereum. You've probably only heard of Bitcoin. It's basically like internet money, not to like get too far into it. There was a point where everything I had was in it, like my IRA, I pulled it out and put it in Bitcoin. I was throwing everything I made into Bitcoin, and Bitcoin went up in value a lot a couple months ago, and then, you know, I cashed out.
Now he did say in the Oompaville interview that he doesn't understand NFTs, just to point it out. But still, he was deep in the crypto game back in 2017, over 7 years ago now, so this whole thing he's trying to spin to make it sound like he just hired a fund to use his money sounds fishy to me, because again, he knows what he's doing cryptocurrency wise. It's kind of funny in hindsight that the BMW video was integral to both the Shadman and the crypto allegations against him, two of the strongest ones I might add, but nothing can be done about it anymore as despite them trying to wipe it off the internet, people saved it and more people starting to learn about this stuff. Now I was originally planning on talking about a bunch of bad things surrounding MrBeast, but I think I've made it pretty clear already in that last section with the Shadman and crypto stuff. We also now know, however, that Dawson this whole time has been a disgruntled employee who wanted to get back at the man and company that fired him, letting his bloodlust for revenge blind him as he started to misconstrue and lie about him. He's shown to be an untrustworthy person after everything we've seen, But I can't sit here and lie and tell y'all he didn't find some good stuff out, cause he did, like the Delaware situation. However, I wouldn't trust him anymore as he's lied about a lot of stuff, so unless someone else wants to take his place as the new head of this anti-MrBeast movement, I feel things will get disjointed until that happens. Speaking of Delaware again, when editing this video, a friend sent me a MrBeast video uploaded on July 2nd, 2019 titled Last to Leave the Revolving Door Wins $50,000, in which at the 6-minute 38-second mark you can see Delaware in the background without his mask on. This gives MrBeast a lot of credit his way, as not only does this mean he was still part of the company after Night Media partnered up with him, it also shows that he likely didn't know he was a child offender even though he had a mask on in the Insane Asylum video. This opened things up where Delaware for some reason might have felt uncomfortable showing his face as a main subject rather than a background person, and again, also shows that MrBeast quite likely didn't know he was on the registry despite what I've been saying. I'm glad this was found out as I'm always searching for the truth no matter what, and after seeing this, it seems that the Delaware stuff might really just be MrBeast being a young adult and not doing a proper background check. Also, that Oompaville interview. It turns out this was a calculated decision by MrBeast and his team, as in an article by Steven Assarch, he would reveal that on the morning of November 19th, 2024, MrBeast agreed to Oompa for an interview, and later that very day that's when it went down, meaning that he didn't even have a full 24 hours for he and his team to gather up information for questions. In fact, Oompaville would admit he only spent about 2 hours himself doing so as he was focused on his Unity game he's making. Quote, in addition, Phelps said he spent 2 hours preparing for his interview at MrBeast, which included writing questions and setting up cameras in his home. This means it's likely he went into this with only the knowledge he and his team knew prior, on top of maybe a tiny amount of new things added at most. Now I have no idea why Oompaville accepted the offer knowing he had very little time to prepare. Maybe it was clout, maybe it was ignorance, but knowing that MrBeast hit him up the morning of November 19th, just a few days after Soggy Cereal's video release, adds more to my theory that he was the test run for the MrBeast comeback campaign. Think about it, if he really wanted to talk about things going on, he would have given him at least a week to prepare in advance to get his questions more straight, but instead only gave him realistically 16 hours give or take at most to do so. It's smart, I won't lie, but it's pretty easy to break down the plan he and his team came up with. I don't know what's going to happen next with this stuff, because the shield MrBeast had of just being a really cool guy has been shattered within the past few months, and now I feel things are going to be a lot more tight-lipped than ever before over at the company itself, as they now know there are many people digging into everything surrounding them in order to get that next juicy story out. That Unilingo stuff is probably going to be the next big thing, because if someone can prove MrBeast poached employees from another company to help form his own company, Creator Global, doing the same work, I feel things are going to ramp up significantly on the corporate side of this, and we might be in for a lot more interesting stuff dropping. Shout out to my channel members for helping support my content, and shout out to my bestie tier members Ras Wolin, Nami, Cody, Laura Hertzman, Cheems, and Hyper aka V. Go check out my Patreon and YouTube memberships if you want to support me yourself in the description below, and hope you join as soon as you can. It's safe to say that this isn't the end of MrBeast, however, as thanks to his crypto dealings, things are just getting started in this new era, and only time will tell when the next big story will come out involving him and his company's name.